Halloween is just around the corner, and if you still need a kid's costume, I've got a quick, fun, super adorable tutorial for you today on how to make a black cat costume for your child. First, I bought a black jacket. I bought one with a zip, so I had to make sure that I put my tummy panel low enough and the zip could go down low enough for her to still slip on over her head. But you can use any black sweatshirt or even a black turtleneck. Just make sure that they can get it on off their head and that they're warm enough on Halloween. Then I made a tail. I actually used a fabric that I already had in my sewing room, some old stretched black jersey. You can use a child's tights. Some black tights are super easy to make a tail, or an old pair of leggings and just cut those up to make to sew together, or whatever black fabric you have. Then I used more of the tummy fabric for the end of the tail. Now this tummy panel fabric is the fun part. It is actually a scarf, a scarf we got at Walmart. And I just loved how cozy and soft it was, and it looked so kitty fur soft to me. So that is what we've used for all of the trim in the costume. And fortunately, Walmart did already have mittens with the trim on it, so I have those pre-made. Then I love this part of the costume because these are just some black jeggings I bought her. Libby loves to wear jeggings to school, so this pair is not even going to get damaged. It's just an extra pair of pants now for her to wear to school because I made these cute little leg warmers out of the scarf fabric to go at her ankles. So she can wear the black pants. So again, any pair of black leggings, black jeans will work fine with the little leg warmers to make little cute ankles. And to top it all off, of course, we need kitten ears. I made these kitten ears with some felt that I got at the dollar store. I sewed that on, and again, my cute scarf fabric. And this was made, I did use a little bit of sewing machine, but you can, hot glue gun or hand sew this on. And this was so fun and easy to make as well. So this whole costume, I did use my sewing machine a bit, and I'm gonna walk you through all the steps, so no worries there. But if you don't have a sewing machine or you don't feel comfortable sewing on a machine, no worries. All of this can be done with hand sewing and the trusty hot glue gun. For our first step, we're going to sew our tummy panel onto our jacket. As you can see, I have a zippered jacket. So I've left a little bit of room for the zipper to move if I need to open and close it a bit to get it over the girls' heads. If you have a fabric that is not stretchy and you don't have any extra movement and you do have a zipper, then this is the girls' costume from a few years ago. You'll have to cut your fabric and sew it on to make room for the zipper. So measure your sweatshirt and then cut your panel accordingly to your size of your fabric and to the consistency of the fabric, to the stretch. Now that I have it pinned in place, I'm just going to hand sew it onto the jacket. The great thing about hand sewing this on is you can do a really simple stitch that you can even remove after Halloween if you want your children to be able to wear their jacket again after they're done being kittens. Now that you have your tummy panel attached to your sweatshirt, it's time to make the tail, which we will ultimately sew on to the back of the sweatshirt. I have a really stretchy fabric that tends to roll, so when I was measuring it, I like to put little post-it notes down. It just holds it in place without damaging my fabric. So I'm going to make it a 6.5 inch long, a 6.5 inch wide, so that I can leave a nice inch seam allowance while I'm sewing it, because it's a rolling fabric, and Julia is probably going to help me do the sewing, so it gives her a nice amount of seam allowance to work with, so we don't have to worry about it curling up on her. I'm making it 20 inches long, 24 inches long. And now we have the fabric for the tail, and I'm going to work on cutting the fur next to attach to the end. Now I'm going to pin my fur onto the end of my tail. I'm leaving about generous 3 inches, 3.5 inches for the bottom of the tail to be covered in fur. And again, I'm just using the width of my scarf because the edges are finished. So I cut it 6.5 inches wide, but I'm using the natural and the pre-finished edges. So what I'm gonna do is I'm pinning this on, and then when I sew it together, this will fall inside and will just become a nice soft stuffing for the inside. So when I'm stuffing my tail, I don't have to worry about getting it in there. It's nice and soft and forms a natural cushioning inside for my tail. So now that I have it pinned on, I'm gonna take it over to my sewing machine and stitch it on. Because the fabric is so forgiving and bushy and fluffy, I can just top stitch it on there and the thread won't show. We have made room for a generous 1-inch seam allowance, and I've marked it with some chalk to help Julia, to guide her as we're going. There you go. Great job. Okay, now it's time to stuff our tail. There you go. Little hands are useful. Sometimes it's helpful to have a little tool to push it down. Do you want to try pushing it down, Julia? Well, there you go, magic. Now we'll attach our tail to our jacket. I've stuffed it. I'm going to fold in the edges, and then I'm going to sew it on in a circle rather than smushing it together, because I think it will hold a nicer shape this way. So folding it in, I'm going to pin it on and then hand stitch it. And there it is, finished, stitched on, and will hang quite nicely when the girls are wearing their costumes. Now it's time to make our leg cuffs. Here is a finished leg cuff. Once again, I'm just using the pre-finished edges of my scarf, which makes using the scarf so handy. All I did was stitch it up the side, and it's all complete. So here is, I measured it on my kids around their ankles to see how wide I want it. I have a really stretchy fabric, so it's a nice little leg warmer to pull over, easily pull over. If you're using like a fur that doesn't stretch, their girl's costume a few years ago, it was a wider leg, so it wasn't a problem. So pay attention to that. Make sure that your children are going to be able to get their costumes on. Obviously a fur will lend itself better to a trim, and a stretchy will be better for a leg warmer. And then head over to my sewing machine for a simple stitching job. Next, it's time to make our kitty ears. Julia, my niece, is modeling the pair I made for her. How do you like them, sweetheart?
They're nice and comfy and cute.
They are adorable. So here's how we do that. I'm going to make an 8-inch long panel. Fold it over using, again, the edges from my scarf. I can fit in 2 ears. Then the extras will be the part to help me cover up the rest of the headband. Now I'm going to make the pink for the ears. I simply cut out a little template out of some paper and cut the ears out of felt. For a fun little trick that I thought of, which will keep my ears holding up straight. At first I thought, well, I'd put cardboard in there. But then I thought, in Vancouver, it rains a lot, I might get wilting ears. So what I've done is, I've cut it out of a duo-tang, an old plastic duo-tang that I've already cut off pieces of it. And then I've cut little flaps on the bottom. And I'm gonna hot glue gun this to the headband. So it's gonna tuck up inside, it's gonna hold my ears up, and it's gonna give me something nice and firm to glue on to my headband. To make my kitten ears, I'm going to sew my little pink inner ear onto my fabric, but first I wanna make a little dart so it's pinched a little to make it even cuter. So I'm just pinching it together and putting in a few little stitches in the corner to dart it. And then I'm going to open it up a bit, and I'm gonna stitch it onto my fur. Now that I have my pink ear attached, I'm going to fold this over to hide it in there, but no worries, we're gonna know where to stitch because we're gonna use one of our templates that we made and place it over top. I'm using the template as a guide, and it's really simple because I wanna make sure I'm bigger than the ears. It's time to finish our cat ears. Here is the finished product that I showed you earlier, and here is the ears that we've been working on for our second set. You remember earlier I talked about the little plastic inserts that I made out of the plastic duo-tangs. These are going to help us to have ears that stand straight and also for a nice flat surface for us to glue onto our headband. So I'm going to tuck in the plastic ears. Make sure you don't put them too close together because then they will resemble bunny ears. So I'm going to apply the hot glue to my first pair. I almost have enough fur to reach across, but I'm missing a little bit. So I'm going to cut a small piece. Now I'm going to fill in the extra area on the headband. I'm just going to use these pieces and glue them on. And here we are with our completed kitty and my model, Julia. She has her kitten ears, her paws, her tummy panel, her tail, and her leg warmers. I think this is such a cute costume. It was really fun to make and the girls just love them. Thanks so much for modeling for me, Julia.